is about to speak from coast to coast to coast, and Stephen Harper can run, but he cannot hide. I'm hearing these words all across Canada, and it's generating a sense of hope and a call for change. And that's because Canadians voted for change just a couple of months ago. So, Mr. Harper, why are you denying the change that Canadians voted for? Why are you refusing the rule of the majority? Folks across this land are losing their jobs. Families are trying to decide at their kitchen tables how they're going to pay the bills. People are being thrown into the streets. They're showing up at homeless shelters where they're running out of food. And what does our Prime Minister do? He puts a padlock on Parliament Hill. He is desperately trying to cling to power, but power flows from the people and from the majority, and we're not going to let him grab a hold of it. Those doors on Parliament Hill are symbolic of our democracy, and we're not going to let him lock the doors of democracy in Canada. Because by closing down Parliament, he has silenced your voice. He has turned his back on the economy and on the people who are being thrown out of work. Well, let me tell you, there is a majority coalition that is ready to act on behalf of Canadian families from coast to coast to coast. And a number of them are right here on stage with me, members of Parliament from the New Democratic Party and the Liberal Party, and I want to thank them for standing together on behalf of what's right in this country. Our First Peoples have taught us about the principles of coming together and developing consensus, particularly in difficult times. That is what we must do, and we must throw aside the politics of division that we have seen from our Prime Minister and bring forward the politics of unity and working together. We had 70,000 jobs lost in November. Think about that for a second. And yet we have a Prime Minister who says everything's okay. That was 3 times worse than the economists were predicting. We're in trouble here, and it's time to join hands and work our way through this crisis. In mills and factories, even in restaurants and service sector industries where people serve one another, they're being thrown out of work. And you know, last week, I think that families across Canada were hoping, they were waiting anxiously that the economic actions that would be announced by the government would give them some sense that there'd be some end to this. Because they watched other countries take action and they'd seen that nothing was happening here. And in fact, business and labor leaders together called for action. New Democrats and Liberals put forward ideas, constructive ideas. On election night, I said to Mr. Harper, we're ready to work together because you have a minority and you have to work with other parties. We'll do our part. But you know what he did? He simply turned his back. I met with him personally. I laid out in detail our ideas. We did it in public. We did it in Parliament. But then he had a chance to at least accept some of the best ideas Canadians were putting forward so we could work together. And what did he do? What did he do? He did worse than nothing. Because instead of an economic plan, Mr. Harper delivered an ideological plan. It was an ideological plan to start selling off public buildings. An ideological plan to kill off the opposition parties. An ideological plan to roll back workers' rights in labor negotiations. And an ideological plan to roll back women's rights. Not one of these plans would create a single job or protect a single pension. That's why it was such a disgraceful performance by our Prime Minister. The fact is, we now know that the #1 priority of Stephen Harper is his job and not yours. Le Canada a besoin d'un gouvernement fort, efficace, responsable. Un gouvernement qui a la confiance du Parlement. Ce n'est pas ce que nous avons maintenant. Nous avons un gouvernement qui se croise les bras alors que notre économie a besoin d'action. Nous avons besoin d'un gouvernement qui s'intéresse plus au pouvoir qu'à la population canadienne. Stephen Harper a manqué à sa promesse envers les Canadiens et les Canadiennes, envers vous et vos familles. Et c'est honteux. C'est pourquoi il a perdu la confiance du Parlement. Le NPD et le Parti libéral veulent stimuler l'économie dans le cadre d'un gouvernement stable et responsable, un gouvernement de la majorité coalition. Nous avons mis nos différences de côté. Nous voulons travailler ensemble pour le bien commun. Quelque chose que M. Harper a refusé de faire. So the New Democrats and the Liberal Party have chosen a path forward to stimulate the economy in a stable and responsible government. We've set aside our differences, and the coalition has a fair and balanced agreement for governing. It's an approach that has the support of the Bloc Québécois and the Green Party of Canada, and we thank those parties for their support.